terms. How simple you can make understand people what is blockchain. I think it will be good for viewers.
Sure. For blockchain, generally, I take very simple example. Let's say everybody in their childhood must have used pencil and rubber, right? So when they use pencil and rubber, let's say I was in a third class. When I was using up till my third class, I was always using pencil and rubber. So the exercise for using pencil and rubber till third class was like you tend to commit a lot of mistakes. So when you tend to commit a lot of mistakes, what you can do, you can use your rubber, you can erase your mistake, and you can update that mistake with the correct thing which it should have, right? So the easiest way to understand is this: the conventional databases. So blockchain is a database. Now I am comparing blockchain database to the conventional database. So conventional databases like MariaDB, Oracle DB, and all these Postgre and all that stuff, these are like just your pencil and rubber kind of a infrastructure, where you can go and update the row, and it will become really, really hard to trace back who updated the row, right? Like if I can go and find a loophole in the system, or I'm a sysadmin or a DBA, I can actually update the row if I'm substantially motivated. Now fast forward, let's say in the next class, after third, I got my entry into the fourth class, and then when I went into the fourth class, I was forced to write from pen. When I'm using pen, what flexibility am I losing now? The flexibility that I'm losing now, that I cannot commit mistake as often as I can in my previous class. And it was expected that I should not be doing that many mistakes. So what happens now is that you are writing information with an indelible ink. If you made a mistake, what you have to do, you have to strike through that wrong information, and then let's say in case of a spelling, you have to strike through that spelling, and then you have to write the correct one just above that mistaken spelling. So now let's say a teacher came in the previous class, in third class, my teacher cannot identify whether I have made a mistake, because I would have rubbed it and just updated a correct one. But now in fourth class, my teacher would know, because my wrong information, what was presented earlier, to which I have striken through, and now what the information now it is present on top of that wrong information, both is visible to my teacher. So that auditability that it comes now, this is what blockchain can be. And now if you attach a timestamp to it, like let's say I did this wrong information at this particular time, and then I corrected it at this particular time, then it can always be considered as blockchain. So blockchain is a database where you get auditability out of the box, immutability out of the box, and irrefutability out of the box. So all of these things, like it's easier to identify who did what into the blockchain domain, because identity is inherently associated with each and every commit that you do in blockchain database.
Let's discuss something on the domain front. Suppose like when we talk about supply chain, how it can be useful. When we talk about healthcare, or means how we can apply this enterprise blockchain in some of areas, in some of these domains, or if you want to explore some other domain, you can.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll speak very briefly about supply chain and healthcare both.
Okay.
So the reason healthcare and supply chain are industries where blockchain is a good fit is because IT infrastructure in both of these industries is very fragmented. What that means is you will find older IT deployments that are siloed inside single hospitals or groups of hospitals, or especially in supply chain, there may be very limited IT deployments. So maybe there are transportation companies who use very basic systems. So now, when supply chains become complex, and when you need to track shipments, or you need to communicate with your partners in your supply chain, you need to share data in the right way, and you need to be able to not just share data in the right way, but you need to ensure that the data you're sharing is only visible to the right parties. So, for example, the customer and the supplier, or the customer and the manufacturer, they don't want to share pricing data with the transporter, or they don't want to share pricing data even sometimes within their own organization with the wrong department, right? So finance will not necessarily always share data with like the supply chain department. So the right kind of access to the data is something that permission blockchain can achieve.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So what about means like suppose अगर हम इसको simpler terms में बोलें मतलब अगर suppose our audience को हम अगर और समझाना चाहें तो मतलब हम ये बता सकते हैं कि मतलब more about transparency रहेगी means like in that supply chain मतलब अगर suppose product origin से source से मतलब अपने destination में जा रहा है तो means it will be more good means अगर आप इसको थोड़ा और अच्छे से elaborate करें मतलब supply chain को थोड़ा सा
Sure, no problem. So, अभी क्या होता है ना कि let's say there is something you're transporting fish or you're transporting some commodity. At the very beginning, there are companies that will package it. The companies that will package it and then they'll sell it to customers. But between the packaging and the selling it to customers, there are a number of intermediaries that come into play. There are all kinds of transportation companies. There are transportation companies that are close to your location, your local transporters, your local transit, then there is international transit, then there is local transit on the side of your customer. And क्या होता है ना कि जब आप on your side, when you do the processing, you won't process it for perhaps the end customer always, because that's not the best way of shipping it. So you will process it on the side of like your local customer, but the country of the local customer. So there is processing there as well. There are a whole number of organizations, players in the middle who are handling your shipment.
Sure.
Right. So now when you create the shipment, you communicate with a lot of these parties in the conventional IT deployment, conventional sense, without a platform, without a supply chain platform that allows sharing. You communicate to them one-on-one. The kind of clients we work with, large clients, they still have communications over emails, they still have communications over, tap-based systems that everyone is not using.
Okay.
So so what they do is they'll communicate with someone, they'll get the communication back, and then they'll start the shipment. But the people in the middle, sometimes people who are not known, for example, on the international transit side or on the third-party transporter side, so transporters who are not necessarily known but are subcontracted by one of the middle parties. So imagine that you're a processor, you are shipping to all kinds of transit, and one of your partners is subcontracting another transporter who you don't know.
Okay.
And they are handling your goods. And now imagine you are shipping fish, and fish has to be maintained at a particular temperature. Right? Now you shipped, you processed it, you packaged it in the right way, you maintained the temperature in the right way, and you shipped it. Now when it reaches the customer says, look, this fish was not after temperature, your temperature was too high at some part of the leg, so now it's spoiled. So how do you ascribe blame? How do you say, okay, this is the partner who's making the error, right? This is the partner who is responsible for this issue. If there are returns to be initiated in non-perishable goods, how do you track that? And how do you tie it to the original shipment? So all these things are very difficult today because communication is very fragmented.
Okay, so I think this use case of supply chain will play a major role. Means like as COVID situation started easing, because I think the whole supply chain is totally broke now. I think what is your take? Means I think it's going to take a lot of adoption in this space. Means as the
So supply chain has been undergoing a lot of digitization over the last couple of years anyway.
Okay.
And what the current situation, COVID, has done is that it has shown that when demand goes up for certain essentials, how important communication and tracking is. Because you are managing inventory somewhere, there is demand somewhere, you're sending it, all your projections that you had. So when the supplier or the manufacturer is building something, creating something or producing something, they are producing it based on some projected demand. So they are talking to the suppliers, they're talking to the customers, and they're trying to project demand, and they're building or creating their product based on that.
Okay.
Now, when there is a gap or there's a issue in communication between parties within a supply chain, and now we have global supply chain, right? For the last, 100 years or so, we've had global supply chains. If there is a clear a way of communicating, projecting certain kinds of things,
Hmm.
then it becomes very difficult for manufacturers, suppliers, customers, transporters to be on the same page and produce the whatever, the commodity, the produce anything in the right quantity to cater to the demand.
Okay.
So this pandemic has, I think, maybe fast tracked what was already happening.
Okay, fine. So I think it's going to take a lot of adoption in terms of blockchain. Means like when it comes to transparency or tracking, means your goods from like your source to destination. Means a lot of transparency it will add in enterprise blockchain. Am I right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Hmm.
But I also like to look at blockchain as one of the technologies that we use.
Okay, fine.
So we have an entire tech stack, and in the tech stack, blockchain plays a very important role.
Okay.
So it's one of the technologies.
So my first question to you is means what is product management? Means like if you can just define means what is product management according to you and how you have seen in your company and what you understand about product management.
So product management basically is understanding a customer problem, identifying a problem first of all, okay, what the problem is, and then coming up with like a solution either through a product or through a feature within the product to solve that problem. And then you basically analyze it to ensure that it actually did solve the problem. You measure its success, and delivering of the that feature is also part of, like, that's called program management. It's also part of product management. And then finally you kind of like launch it into market, and then you get a feedback, you improve upon it. So that's the whole process of product life cycle that you work
So
on. What else? Yeah, I mean, some things that if you want to become a product manager, something that's important for you will be, you have to be a good leader. You have to be good at people management, because
yeah,
first of all, when you talk to the customer, right, you have to understand their problem. What is it that they're really looking for? Sometimes customers themselves don't know what they want, they just know the problem. So understanding the problem and then coming up with a good solution. So that is where a good communication skills is required. You have to be a people person. You have to be, you need to genuinely like interacting with people. Then next thing is, now you have to work with your team to communicate that problem as well as the solution that we are suggesting, and then convince them that, hey, this is what you have to make them passionate about this problem that you're solving, and that requires leadership and people management. So you kind of like connect with people, you explain, you show them the vision that you are seeing, and then everybody kind of gets inspired and works on that. And finally you do a good delivery, and then you launch it to the market at the right time. You work with, I mean, sometimes you work with different teams. Sometimes in smaller companies you are the one who is doing it. So you basically, you know, launch it, and then you measure that what you did was good or not. You have to have a scientific approach towards your product.
Okay, so what I can get from is like what you have described. I think three things. One is the problem, one is leadership skills, and third one is people management. Means like when we define, means suppose like when we are defining product management, these are the important characteristics, or you can say these are the important skills you need to look first when you are starting into the product management, or what is product management. So these are very important skills we need to know about it, and how to manage people, how to look at the problem, how to act as a leader, how to work in different stages. Am I right? Means like
My name is Vaibhav Agarwal and I'm currently working in an MNC as team lead. I have 4 plus years of experience in iOS development. I will be your guide throughout this journey of iOS development course. Let's initiate our discussion with our very first question that may come to your mind. Why should one learn iOS development? That's a very basic question. So, here's the answer. It is easy to learn and you can build great apps using this. According to a popular job portal, Indeed, average salary of iOS professionals is 68% higher than the average salary for other job positions. So you can imagine what benefits iOS can provide you. Also, there's a very important point that needs to be noticed is that by learning iOS development, you can create apps for iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Apple Watch. This means you can cover the whole Apple ecosystem. You can use Swift, Auto Layout, and Xcode and you can build apps for all of the products that are designed by Apple. Apple has a very large market share in terms of products and services, which are garnered from basic users to pro users. In current scenario, there's always a higher demand for Apple developers, but there's a very short supply. We will help you to fill that supply and make a successful career in it. In this course, we are going to learn from basics to advanced frameworks of iOS development so that you can understand the mobile environment and try your hands on iPhone apps. Basic frameworks like UI Foundation that will help you to create small apps, and large frameworks such as SQLite or CoreData to store local values in your local databases. So we will also build some applications so that you can go through the process of development and what challenges comes when we go for the development.
What is Mentorniti? Mentorniti is a program where experienced industry professionals, researchers, and entrepreneurs will help you in finding the best career path according to your interests. So let's check out the different modules. So here is a list of different modules: finding the X factor in you, creating framework for career growth, helping in finding the right resource for learning, helping creating great portfolio, mock interview preparation, helping to get a good job. Now you'll be wondering why Mentorniti. So let's see. So, as Benjamin Franklin said, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. So, a helping hand where will guide you to find the right path for your career. Mentor have experiences you can learn from to prevent making the same mistakes beginners make. Mentorniti talks on various career opportunities, access to great tech community. So, who all can join Mentorniti? Let's see. Okay, students, working professionals, job seekers, entrepreneurs.